In this exercise, we're going to be talking about passive writing and wordiness. Passive writing involves the use of weak verbs, and wordiness is just sentences that contain a lot of unnecessary words that often will bog down a story, make it more difficult to read. So in news writing and communications writing, you really want to focus on paragraphs and sentences that are tight and concise and convey the point instead of being filled with fluff or just, again, unnecessary words. You also want your sentences to be active. The writing is just, it's easier to read. It's more enjoyable to read when writing is in an active tone instead of a passive tone. So I'm going to walk through a few of these sentences with you, and then at the end what I want you to do is 5 through 8 on each of these exercises. I want you to do those and then submit those for participation points. So let's go ahead and start with passive writing. Passive writing is very common with new writers, and it must be just something that we've just learned. We've learned that way of writing in middle school or high school, and we just carry it into our writing as we go on. But we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of the passive voice in this course and teach you to write an active voice. So let's go ahead and look at the first one. The ball was slammed out of the park by shortstop Ricky Blitz. So what is the verb that we're looking at here? Was slammed. Was slammed. Oops, not a T, we want an L. So what is making this verb passive is this, was. So we want to get rid of that. And now we need to rewrite that sentence to make it active. So how about the ball, instead of the ball being slammed, how about Ricky Blitz is doing the action, right? Let's focus on him. Ricky Blitz slammed the ball out of the park. He slammed the ball. Now that makes an active sentence, right? And it's a more interesting sentence. So let's go on and do the other one, number 2. There were dark clouds on the horizon. Okay, there were dark clouds on the horizon. That is your passive section right there. There were. So how do we take that passive verb and make that an active sentence? We could start with what was on the horizon? Dark clouds. So let's start with that. Dark clouds. Instead of were on the horizon, how about loomed? They loomed over the horizon. Or they hung over the horizon. Hung over the horizon. So just by making your verbs stronger, you make the entire sentence stronger. All right, number 3. There was a tall, dark stranger who came to Tanya's house yesterday. So who came to Tanya's house yesterday, right? Well, let's first identify what makes that passive. There was, right? There was a tall, dark stranger who came to Tanya's house. We want to get rid of that passive verb. That was makes that sentence weak. So how about a tall, dark stranger came to Tanya's house or visited Tanya's house or showed up at Tanya's house. So we're getting that was out of the sentence. We're focusing on just the verb, not the to be, the was. We're getting that out of there, and we're focusing on that verb. Came, visited, showed, and we have to tweak it to make that tall, dark stranger doing the action. Because that's the subject, right? That's the subject of the sentence. Okay, let's do this last one. An angry tirade was delivered to the council last night by Mayor, we'll call him Mayor D because that's a weird last name to pronounce. So an angry tirade was delivered. We know if we see was, that is going to tip us off. So we are going to say that is passive, and we're going to make it active by saying, how about the mayor, right? The mayor is the subject in this sentence. So let's say Mayor D delivered an angry tirade. So we're just getting rid of that was, removing the subject up, and you can change that around too. It doesn't. You can play with that sentence a little bit. Instead of delivering an angry tirade, was angry at the council meeting. So you can work on the sentence overall, but the main thing you want to do with passive writing is change that verb. Okay, let's move on to wordiness. Okay, Jane, number 1. Jane is a niece of Richard's. Let's look at that. Jane is a niece of Richard's. How do we eliminate the wordiness here? Why don't we just say Jane is Richard's niece. Okay? So you're eliminating some of the words that are unnecessary. Of Jane is niece Richard's. You're just flipping it over. Jane is Richard's niece. So just makes it tighter, more conversational. Okay, number 2, reigning over, I won't write this all down, but reigning over the 44th Annual Pioneer Day Parade will be Queen Cindy Valentine. So that's a passive sentence too, right? Will be Queen. How about we turn this around? How about we just say Queen Cindy Valentine will reign over the 44th Annual Pioneer Day Parade. You can say will lead, but reign, because we're talking about a queen, so we're doing a little play on words. Okay, so we're eliminating some of the words to make it a little more conversational and tighter. Okay. How about number 3? What the council is attempting to do is get the citizens to work on the energy problems themselves. What the council is attempting to do. Okay, that right there is very wordy. You could write this sentence without saying all that. Another word for is attempting to do is, how about once? How about let's see. Council wants the citizens to work on the energy problem themselves. Then you can get rid of all of that, right? That makes it a little bit tighter. Last one, number 4. There is one thing that anyone who has ever eaten at Sourdough Jim's restaurant will agree on, and that is the fact that Jim really knows how to cook. How about everyone or anyone who has eaten at Sourdough Jim's, restaurant knows he can really cook. Period. So you're just taking out some of those unnecessary words that sort of clog up that sentence, make it a little less interesting to read, and you're tightening it up. And that's what I want you to do with everything that you write in this class. Look for ways to turn your passive sentences into active sentences and find words that don't help that sentence, that aren't needed in that sentence, and get rid of them. It may take rewriting or tweaking that sentence, but that's your goal in all of your writing assignments. So now, work on 5 through 8 on both of those exercises, and then go ahead and submit them to me.